Hi, this is Diana. Welcome back to my channel Tinky Loves Books, that's all about books and reading. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I have been very excited to read, and that is by the undisputed king of horror, you guessed it, Stephen King's The Institute, which was released on the 10th of September. And I've already read it and I love it, and I'm here to tell you all about it. I actually wanted to wait to read this book in October because I thought of Halloween and everything, and that would be a good book to read during the month of October because that's when I plan to read a lot of other horror books. But this book was just calling out to me and I couldn't resist it anymore. I had to read it, and so I did. The first night I read it almost till 3 a.m. because I couldn't stay awake any longer. It's a big book and I was really sleepy. I didn't want to close my eyes. I wanted to finish it, but at the same time I just couldn't. So I had to stay awake the next night. I didn't have to, I wanted to, and I did, and I completed the book the next night. And I was so satisfied after that. I really didn't go into the book expecting anything because I didn't know how much horror it would contain. But I found that it was not so much horror, it was more about paranormal abilities of children. And I like those kind of books too, so I wasn't really disappointed. The story is about this little boy called Luke Ellis. He's 12 years old, and one day he's kidnapped, or one night he's kidnapped and taken to this place called the Institute, where he finds that there are children with similar abilities to his, and they have all been kept in the institute and are used for experiments. He's not really sure what it is that they need to do, but he just knows that their powers are being harnessed for something sinister and nefarious. So the children have powers of either telepathy or telekinesis, which the people at the institute are going to use against other particular people in the world. Now, all the children are quite certain that once they have been used for whatever it is that they have been kidnapped for, they are going to die unless brilliant little Luke with his brilliant little brain can come up with a plan so that they can all escape from there. Now, though this book is classified as horror fiction, it's not one of those books that gives you nightmares and sleepless nights like I had when I read Pet Sematary. No, it's more a book that talks about the super or the paranormal powers of these children, rather than a horror book that's full of gore and guts spilling out and eyeballs hanging by a thread. It's not that kind of a fiction book at all. The writing is of course riveting, considering that it's Stephen King and he is a master storyteller. I especially love the way he builds context and the way he creates each character so that when anything happens to the character, you really feel for them. For example, Luke Ellis's parents, or the the sheriff of Dupree, they are not major characters, but he builds them up in such a way that when something happens to them, you feel really bad and you really feel for them. So there are two stories running in parallel. One is of ex-cop Tim Jameson, who has been discharged from the police force because of an unfortunate event that occurred, and he is now drifting on his way to New York, and he stops at the town of Dupree and decides to hang on over there for a while till he decides to move on. And that is where his part of the story pauses, and then almost 300 pages later he comes back into the story of Luke Ellis, and these two stories converge then and reach their natural end. There are a lot of small cultural and literary references that Stephen King sprinkles throughout his books, such as J.R.R. Tolkien's books or George R.R. Martin's book, and also John Grisham. And there's once where he even refers to the twins from his cult horror classic The Shining, and I just love these little gems. I loved finding them all throughout the book where he had placed them. One of my favorite characters in the book is often Annie, because she's just so crazy and unique and fearless and eccentric, and everybody thinks that she's so crazy and out of her mind, but it happens that she was the one who was right all along, and I just loved her character. Now, if you're the type of person who's scared of being scared, then you can safely read this book, because this book is not going to give you nightmares. It's just a marvelous story about paranormal powers, and it's not one of those gory scare fests which will make you feel like all ugh. But if you're a die-hard fan of horror and love evil and gore, then this is not the book for you, because this doesn't have all those elements in it. It's just slightly gory at times, just little sections in the book, but it's not all-out horror like you would expect it to be. So you might want to consider reading some other book of Stephen King's rather than this. This I would put more in the category of, say, Carrie or The Green Mile, and not so much in the category of Pet Sematary, which I thought was personally a really creepy book. So that was my review of Stephen King's The Institute, and I loved this book. I would give it a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. The only 1 star that I have deducted was because there is a section in the book that goes on and on about trains and Luke's journey somewhere, and that went on for a while, and even towards the end of the book I found the end was a bit too long drawn out, and those 2 sections of the book could have been condensed a bit and made far shorter than they were, and that would have probably, I think, reduced the book size by about 100 pages or so. But despite that, I love the book, and I would definitely recommend it to all fans of Stephen King. And even if you've never read a Stephen King book before this, you might want to pick this up and give it a try. It's really a lovely book. So that was all for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to press the like button below, and also to subscribe to my channel for more content on books and reading. I'll be back with another video really soon, so I hope you'll join me then. Bye.